What is going on, everybody? My name is LeakyTapsMan and this is another This Week in Gaming where I bring you up to date with gaming news, rumours, speculation. And unlike the last couple of weeks, there has been quite a lot going on this week and a lot of it is some pretty big news as well, so there is no time like the present, let's do this. Okay, the director of Bayonetta, which was the action game that came out a few years ago by Platinum Games, basically this dude, his name is Hideki Kamiya, apologies if that's mispronounced. Basically, he said that he wants to do a second Bayonetta, but he will not do it until he does a Viewtiful Joe 3. For those of you that don't know what Viewtiful Joe is, it was kind of like a side-scrolling beat-em-up comic book action game. Really quite bizarre, to be honest, but it was a very popular game as well, so I'm sure that will be news that is greeted with some large positivity. And he also went on to say that he's held talks for both Viewtiful Joe 3 and Bayonetta 2, as well as some Bayonetta spin-offs, which he didn't specify. So all in all, this is one busy dude, and it sounds like Capcom/Platinum Games have a lot in the offing, so watch this space. I also mentioned a couple of weeks ago about Dragon's Dogma 2, where basically it was confirmed. Well, now some details have emerged about the game. This is straight from the horse's mouth. This is from the guy who's created it. His name is Hideaki Itsuno, and essentially he wants to bring a quest creation feature that didn't make it into the original game. He also wants to expand the world, the actual size of it, since the first one was about 2/3 of its original size. He also went on to say that only about 60% of the original ideas made it into the first game, so you can expect some pretty large progressions into the second Dragon's Dogma now that they're not bound down as much with time restrictions. I think this is the time that they can flourish. Okay, also this week, a new Army of 2 game was announced. This wasn't Army of 4 like has been rumoured in recent months. It's actually called Army of 2 The Devil's Cartel. Supposedly the game will reset the series, as they say, and Dead Space developers Visceral Games are taking over the reins. It's going to use the Frostbite 2 engine, and it will be darker and grittier. Isn't everything always darker and grittier? Why can't it be lighter and more hand-holding? Anyway, it's coming March 2013, no other details than that. Never actually played an Army of 2 title myself, but I hear that they're quite good in co-op, so I'll be keeping an eye on it at the very least. Alright, it's also been rumoured this week that Bethesda have supposedly bought the rights to Stalker 2. Now basically the situation with Stalker 2 is a bit of a mess. The game was in development, then it got cancelled, then it was back in development, then it was cancelled again, and it's basically been back and forth for a while, and they couldn't get a publisher, and now supposedly Bethesda have the rights to it. But this is a company that already has the rights to Fallout and Rage, which are, I wouldn't say very similar, but they are pretty damn similar. So I would be apprehensive to believe that Bethesda really have bought the rights to the game. But if they have, then it's very good news in my opinion, because Stalker 2 is pretty much dead in the water. Bethesda have a proven track record of making good games, barring Brink, and hopefully they can take the series to new heights. So again, that's one where I'd say watch this space. Also this week, Activision have confirmed that they're going to be considering a new Tony Hawk's Pro Skater title. This was buoyed by the success of the HD collection which they just released. They didn't elaborate whether it's going to be an entirely new title or whether it's going to be, say, a HD remake of 3 and 4. Well, I assume it's not 3, seeing as that's becoming DLC. But hopefully this will be more of a classic style Tony Hawk's compared to the newer ones where they didn't get so well received. I certainly think there's room in the market for both a realistic type skating game like Skate and then a more arcadey one for non-skating fans to enjoy. So hopefully this will see a bit of a resurrection in the series. I'm not going to hold my breath for it, but hopefully something good will come of this. And finally this week, arguably the biggest news of the week, but also the least gaming-y news, so I kind of left it till last. Electronic Arts, aka EA, are suing Zynga Games. These are basically the social gaming powerhouse that have an abundance of games on stuff like Facebook. I'm sure if you've played any social network type game, then you've played something from Zynga. But basically, they're suing them over an unmistakable copy of Sims Social, and to be fair, EA have a point because Zynga's game, which is called The Ville, is basically a clone to the point where if you saw 2 screenshots of the game together, which they did show in an article, you can barely tell them apart. So this should be pretty interesting to see how the courts align themselves. And part of EA's official statement is, I'll read here, By calling Zynga out on this illegal practice, we hope to have a secondary effect of protecting the rights of other creative studios who don't have the resources to protect themselves. So there you have it, Electronic Arts are actually sticking up for the little guy, which is bizarre, frankly. But they have every right to in this case, and let's hope they take Zynga to the cleaners, because it is not on to do something like that. And that essentially summarises everything that's gone on this week in the world of video games. A few status updates on my part. The second part of my top 25 games of all time will be coming sometime this week, most likely Thursday, seeing as I'm pretty busy up until that point. But I'm cautiously optimistic that it will be well received, because the first part was surprisingly positive in terms of response, so I'm less concerned about releasing it. I'll be doing a Q&A video quite soon where you can just ask me all your questions, so you can expect to hear something from that quite soon, maybe not this week. And there are just a few other things in the pipeline which I will keep quiet on for now. But a huge thank you for watching, and have a nice day. Go Team GB.